Welcome to the CodCast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Matt, we've just released the Maiden resource for Cattle Grid South, a new type of deposit for Elizabeth Creek, or at least so far for our study. And thought we'd just spend 5 minutes, quick cod, to have a bit of a chat about it and explain some of the thinking behind it, what it is, why we've done this, what the next steps are, and just to provide a little bit more information and interest around the announcement. So to start with, what is it? What have we done? What is this resource all about?
So it's a JORC compliant inferred mineral resource covering about 5.5 million tonnes at about 0.62% copper, roughly. About the size in terms of contained copper of Mg14 plus about 50% more. Right,
so about 1.5 times the size of Mg14, lower grade, lower cutoff grade.
Yes, yep.
So why are we using a lower cutoff grade for this one?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's a pure copper cutoff. So Mg14 in Windabout is a copper equivalent. Yeah. So that already accounts for the silver and the cobalt and things like that in that equation. Yeah. We haven't done that for Cattle Grid South.
Yeah. So this is pure copper,
0.2% copper. So you get some benefit, sort of a pseudo higher cutoff grade, by assuming some of the credits for the cobalt and silver and things. So that would bring it up a little bit. The other major factors are that it is it's an extension of the historical Cattle Grid deposit. So that was mined in the 70s mostly, up until the 90s on and off. Right. And they produced quite a bit of copper out of that, about 150,000 tonnes. So there's a reasonably well understood metallurgical history there. Yeah. And the copper concentrates quite well. Right? So while the cutoff grade is lower, the actual amount of copper you're going to get out per tonne is not materially different for the lower grade Cattle Grid South versus the higher grade Mg14 or Windabout.
That makes sense. So lower cutoff grade, but this is an extension of a pit that's already been mined.
Yeah.
We know a lot about it. It's historically been very well behaved when it's been mined at Cattle Grid. Just so happens that this part of the Cattle Grid deposit effectively is on our exploration tenure.
Yeah. The mineralisation runs between the old ML that we don't own, but the old pit is on, and it continues south into our ground, hence Cattle Grid South.
So new deposit, about 36,000 tonnes of contained copper. So not huge, but by no means small, about 1.5 times an Mg14. So let's talk about why we've done this. What's the point?
More copper. That's always good. If you're choosing between more or less, you'd take more. And we've been able to go out to our consulting partners at SRK, and they've given us a good conceptual pit outline, which has said, there's a realistic, reasonable prospect of economic extraction under the JORC code, and if we can get it into the scoping study, there's some potential there for it to be quite value accretive.
For now, we're talking about why we've done this. So the first thing is obviously it exists, makes sense, more copper. It's also very much something that we expect would be, so based on our understanding of metallurgy, would be included in the sort of stage 1 under the existing scoping study plan.
Yeah, historically the Cattle Grid deposit was mined and concentrated, but it wasn't processed on site beyond concentration, which is what most sites do, most deposits. And, it's been perfectly capable of producing a nice high-grade concentrate. We have assumed and designed Elizabeth Creek to be split up into a concentrate sale stage 1 and a hydromet stage 2. Yep. And this, assuming it behaves like the rest of the deposit, would slot quite nicely, we hope, into that stage 1. So next steps, first of all, we need to do a mining study. We need to put a bit more of a rigorous pit shell around it and get a bit of a schedule going. We need to do a little bit more work on the historical metallurgy and see how we can process it and make sure that's still applicable. And then we just really need to look at the integration with the rest of the deposits and make sure everything works nicely. Little bits and pieces here and there, but overall shouldn't be, fingers crossed, shouldn't be too challenging.
Yeah, this is a relatively relatively minor piece of work. It's obviously not a huge distraction from the main game, which we're really focusing on the flagship deposit, ME Bluff, the extensions to ME Bluff, and obviously continuing our work on the metallurgy as well with the recovery work, which is ongoing. But yeah, this is, I mean, to my mind, it's more copper. It has the potential for early revenue. We need to do some more work, but it certainly makes very logical, strategic sense to have the ability to extend and expand that stage 1. A couple more MG14s wouldn't hurt either. So in terms of exploration, you know, this is something to look for in the future.
So yeah, there's also room to grow in this one. So there's a few spots to the south, and southeast and southwest where the historical drilling has really petered out, and there's scope to expand as part of the drilling that we'll do in future. I mean, Elizabeth Creek has grown from 3 deposits, MG14, Windabout and ME Bluff, to 4 now, Cattle Grid South. 2 likely conceptually in stage 1. Need a little bit to do a little bit more work on that, obviously, and we'll look to include that. Exciting, very low cost, and relatively simple work to bring another 36,000 tonnes into resource in the near term. So nice little win. And we'll continue also to be focusing on the big wins, which really around that metallurgy piece, especially the recoveries, as we've had a win at Windabout, we talked about in the last CodCast, focusing on increasing that through MG14 and ME Bluff as well. And then, of course, the geological expansion work, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a future CodCast. Definitely. Looking forward to that one.
Awesome. Thanks, and thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, as always, info@coderminerals.com or chris.stevens@coderminerals.com. Like and subscribe, please. And also, give us feedback. We're really trying to do this to be transparent, to be open, and to give more information of the thinking and the strategic rationale for doing these things. Again, obviously refer back to the full announcement and JORC table 1 for full details as well. So thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks.